Welcome to Barker's Barbecue. Today you're watching part 2 of our 3-part series on brisket. Alrighty, so in part 2 we're going to be focusing on the cook, the big deal, the big part of it, right? So we've got the trim out of the way, we've got your brisket selected, now let's work out how to cook this thing. Now the type of cooker that you use is going to obviously vary the plan that you're going to take with cooking this brisket. I've largely cooked my briskets in the past on a Kamado Joe's. I've also cooked them on bullet smokers as well. This is actually one of the first ones I've done on a pellet grill actually. So this is a Campchef Woodwind 24 that I've just got. So this is the first cook of a brisket that I've actually done on it. So looking forward to seeing how we go. So ordinarily on a Kamado, I would probably go with maybe an 8 to 10, maybe 11-hour cook for a brisket. We're going for something a bit longer with this one. So the first sort of 6 to 8 hours of the cook, we're going to go for a low smoke period. So we're going to give it a fair bit of smoke. We're going to have a smoker tube running in there as well to get a really nice bark developed, give us a nice bit of extra smoke. Because one thing pellet grills are notorious for is being a bit light on with the smoke. So I want to make sure we jack that up a little bit just to provide us a bit extra in that department. So the temperature we're running at today is going to be 225 degrees Fahrenheit for this first sort of 6 to 8 hour period of this cook. Nice and low, nice and slow to give us a bit of extra smoke. Make sure you plan out your cook. So we're aiming to have this ready for dinner time tomorrow. So it's actually just about the stroke of midnight tonight. So we're looking at maybe 18 hours before we're going to be eating this, so 6 p.m. tonight. So the way I've got this cook planned out is we're going to do 6 to 8 hours at this low smoke temp. We're going to get up at about maybe 6, 7, 8 o'clock, depending on how long my kids let me sleep in. Check on the bark development, see how things are looking, see where we're at in the cook, do a bit of a temp test, and then based off that, we'll bump temperatures up a little bit to maybe 250, 260 Fahrenheit, and go from there to finish out the rest of the cook, and then we'll be resting it from there. And the great thing about resting is that you can actually just pop it in your oven once it's done, tightly wrapped, and it'll sit in there for ages. But we are going to cover that in more detail a bit later. So I'll give you guys a bit of a peek of the setup that I've got going in the smoker right now. It's got a foil tray down here that's going to catch all of the crud that our brisket's going to drop. That's one thing that briskets are notorious for, is filling your smoker with crap. So make sure you place your foil tray down on this bottom shelf here. And at the back here, I've got a little water pan just to give a bit of moisture into the environment in the cook chamber. And we're going to pop the brisket on this second shelf here so everything gets around it. So there's nice smoke and air circulation going around the brisket. If it goes on the bottom shelf on pellet grills, occasionally the convective heat from the firebox at the bottom and that baffle plate you can see there can actually cook the brisket a lot quicker and sometimes even scorch the bottom. So yeah, just go careful with that. We'll go top shelf brisket on this one. Top shelf brisket deserves to be on the top shelf. So the only thing left to do is to go get our brisket. And look at that. So I've got the thicker point section up this end. I'm going to point that just towards the exhaust sort of outlet, towards the back right corner here, just to sort of help send that smoke over the top of it as it leaves. Just a theory, let's see if it works. Now what I've also got here as well is I've got a little dish that has all the fat trimmings that we took off earlier on. I've chopped those up into the sort of smaller pieces, put them in here. I'm going to throw this in here as well. It's going to slowly render all this fat out and give us some beautiful tallow that we'll use in the cook later on. Stay tuned for how we're going to use that. Another great thing about the Campchef is that it does give you some probes that you can use as well, and you can plug them into the side of the controller. It gives you the temp readout of your brisket as you cook it. So what I've done is I've placed it into the thickest part of the flat section. So just in here. And that way it's going to tell me just how this brisket is traveling without me even having to lift the lid. Not only that, it's going to tell me what the temperature is from my bed. All right, now we're going to be running this smoker tube inside as well. Now what this is just a slotted steel tube that has sort of, holes all through it. I've filled this up with our pellets, and for your information as well, the pellets that we're using today are lumberjack pellets. I've used the last of the bag that I've got at the moment, using the competition blend that has maple, hickory and cherry in it. Sounds like a winner to me. Now I've got our smoker tube here filled with all of our pellets. Now the way this works is we light the end up with our gas torch here, and then we blow it out once it starts to flame, and we just park it on the bottom shelf in there, and it gently just burns and burns away and offers a bit of extra smoke throughout the cook. Great little gadget. Just wait till it gets established. It's pretty much there now, actually. There we go. See you in the morning. All right, morning everyone. We have hit the 8-hour mark, so let's have a bit of a check. Looking good so far. Starting to bark up. Still quite a ways from where we want to be, of course, but we're well on the way. Looking at the temp side of things, we're looking at 159 degrees Fahrenheit, so we're right at that sort of stall area. So yeah, for 8 hours in, we're sitting pretty. Now the first thing I've done this morning after realizing where it's at is I've bumped the temperature up to 250 Fahrenheit, so it's just on the way to getting that up. Our tallow's looking great. It's slowly rendering a lot of that fat out. Very pleased with how that's traveling. Long way to go, but here we are, 8 hours in. Now the other thing worth doing as well is just to make sure the whole brisket is traveling along in a pretty similar way. So we're going to use our thermopen here and have a check in some other spots to see where we're sitting. Pretty much averaging 160 to 168 across the whole brisket, so pretty happy with that. So yeah, as mentioned, bump the temps up to 250 Fahrenheit from 200. We've given it a nice long low smoke period of 8 hours, and now it's time to get things moving so we can get this thing cooked. So now that we've established our smoke profile on there, the next thing we're looking at is to get that bark set beautifully. I'm also going to give the brisket just a bit of a quick spritz. Just got some apple cider vinegar here. Come back in a few hours and have another look. Alrighty, we are 10 hours into the cook now, so just a quick recap of what's happened so far. So the first 8 hours of the cook, we've run the grill at 200 degrees Fahrenheit, not 225. I made a decision to drop it down to 200 not long after shooting the first section. Got up at 8 a.m. this morning, about 8 hours in, to check on things, and the brisket was sitting at around about 165 Fahrenheit. Really happy with the level of smoke on it at that point. So roughly about 10 hours in, and we're gonna have a bit of a check and see how things look. So you can see, sitting at 183 Fahrenheit, sitting at 250 on the cooker. As you can see, that bark is coming along quite nicely. We've got a few little wet patches, no big deal there. What you can do as well, if you're a bit concerned about these wet patches, you can actually put a ball of foil at the back just to lift the brisket up a little bit, and angling it up is going to make those sort of fat pools run off. Not too concerned about it at this point. Happy to let those roll for a bit longer and see how we travel. Got our tallow at the back there that's rendered really, really nicely, so we're definitely going to make use of that in a bit. So we're going to do some temp readings now. It's a good idea to check different parts of the brisket just to make sure, you know, things are sitting. Oh wow, there you go. So some parts are sitting at 200, 196, 180, 175. Yeah. Still has a bit to go all around. Bark is coming along nicely. There's no bits I'm really concerned about there. Everything's looking good. Barking up beautifully there. It's making its way across. This will be barked up all the way around, I reckon, very shortly, and then we'll look at the wrap stage. So yeah, 10 hours in, as you can see, we've got a few conflicting temps across the whole brisket. That does happen now and then, but we're going to let this ride a bit longer at this 250 Fahrenheit, and we'll come back in maybe about half an hour to an hour and check back again. Hey buddy. All right, while we wait for our brisket to come up to temp, we're gonna go ahead and get our tallow strained. So just some really simple equipment for this one. You're just gonna need a little, a glass jug ideally. You're gonna need a sieve and just some paper towel. A coffee filter would be better, but paper towel will work just fine. So place your paper towel inside the sieve, just like that. And then we're just gonna take this and pour it in here. I'm going to see how I go here because it's currently raining on set. I don't know if you can hear that, so I want to get this done nice and quick. But yeah, what this is going to do, this is going to sort of strain all the bits, all the crud out of the tallow. That way you'll have nice clean tallow. So as you can see, it's filtering through nice and slow, just filtering all the bits out. And I might actually throw that back in the smoker. I feel like there's more tallow to come from that, so we'll see how we go. All right, we're just about filtered through there. The reason for doing the filtering is because you'll get these little beef bits, and you don't want those going in the tallow because that might make it more susceptible to going rancid. All right, got a little squeezy bottle here. I'm gonna pour that straight in. And there we have our liquid gold. Easy as pie. All right, we're just about at the 11-hour mark, so let's have a bit of a check and see. So it's turned into a bit of a circle, actually. So remember initially when we were looking at this, the flat muscle was actually quite short on it. It had a good piece of it chopped off from what I could see. It wasn't a bad thing, but just something to factor into the cook. Now, what I can see, the way this is cooked directionally, obviously the heat's coming from the bottom, so it's actually cooked quite a bit from the bottom, and this top section needs a little bit further to go, just a bit more. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to flip this over when I wrap it in the foil I've just got below me here. I'll bring you down to have a look, and then I'm going to put paper over the top just so we can preserve the bark as well. Just giving it a bit of a spritz. So this is as it's come out of the smoker. So as mentioned, I'm actually going to flip this over and wrap it like that. Bit of a spritz across the back here. And the way I'm going to wrap this is we've got a base of thick foil and we've got a top of paper. So I'm going to put the paper over the top, give the paper a bit of a spray as well just to make it relax. And the way I do this wrap is I start at one end, just sort of start to bring the paper in, lock it in at one side, and then just start to work my way around. So scrunch the paper up or fold the paper up like that, just like that, and just start to work it around. All right, now while you're watching this fascinating wrap demonstration, I thought I would just put a quick note in. I mentioned the stall earlier on when I was testing the temp on the brisket, and I didn't go into detail. So what the stall is, it's when the brisket reaches about 165 degrees Fahrenheit internal, and it tends to stop and hang about there for quite some time before progressing any further. So this is a point where the brisket is perspiring a lot of juice, and the airflow around the brisket is preventing it from climbing in temp until all that excess moisture is gone. It's kind of like when you're sweating, when you're running and the breeze is cooling you. So you can crank temps up to try and blow past the stall, or you can just sit firm and ride it out. The important thing though is to wrap at the point when you're happy with the bark or as close as you can manage. It's kind of the same as a foil boat method, but you're just adding a layer of paper across the top just for a bit of extra moisture retention. All right, and there we are. Right, there's a picture. Now we're going to pop this back in. Just a quick handheld shot of what I'm going to do here for you as well, guys. So here, I like to use some of this tallow. So I'm going to open this up, just make a little opening there. Just start adding some of that back in. There we go. Let it all run through. Still got a good amount left. We've probably got about a quarter of a cup there. That's enough for what we need it for a bit later. We've got a bit more that's rendering up the back there. All right guys, quick update on the cook. So we had a bit of a variance between the flat and the point temps, which is pretty common for a brisket cook. So these ones were a bit bigger than I was expecting though. So you know, the flat section was heading to 195, edging onto 200, and parts of the point were still sitting at about 170. So I've gone ahead and we've gone ahead and wrapped it as you've seen, right? Now we've also flipped it because the heat is coming up from the bottom. So flipping it is going to help to sort of even it out, and I've just been doing some testing on it, and it really has evened out the whole thing. It's sort of, it's never going to get 100% across it. There's always going to be varying temps, but I was pleased to see that things have started to sort of even out a bit more. This flat has gone backwards a little bit, which is good. That's kind of what I wanted. I wanted to sort of sit around sort of, under 200 if I can keep it there. And this this point section back here, thicker area is starting to really come up a bit more. Still struggling in some parts, about 170, but this is often what happens with brisket. You know, I'm all about making sort of videos that are a bit more honest than some others out there. But yeah, it's still probing quite heavy in this section. So I always make the point about having things that are probe tender. So when you get to the sort of close to the finishing stages of a cook with a brisket, you want to just have a feel of it. You kind of want to disregard the temperatures, because I've fallen victim to it myself now and sort of started freaking out a little bit like, oh shit, you know, the cook's going sideways. So in here, it's still probing a bit tough for my liking. So this section still needs more. Down here, if I just give it a feel, it actually feels really nice. So I want this section to come along a bit more. So we're going to keep cooking away, and the rest should hopefully even everything all out. All right, everyone, we've reached the 12.5-hour mark, and I reckon this brisket's done. Let's get it out. Really loose, and it's sort of like a hot knife going through butter. That's kind of what you want it to feel like. Now, I won't lie to you, there is a section in here that seems a little bit tough. Now, my theory is that it's actually going into some fat. So yeah, at this point, I'm still happy with it all. It's a really small pocket of the brisket. Literally, you know, here feels a smidge tight. If you go over there, it feels beautiful. So yeah, I'm happy with it all round. Now, one of the secrets that I like to do, well, I guess it's no secret, is tallow. So I've got about like I say, about a quarter cup maybe there. Beautiful. A little bit left. I'm just going to send it down this side of the brisket. There we go. Now this is going to chill out in this tray for a little bit, because I don't want to put it straight into the esky or the oven just yet, because it needs to stop cooking. If we were to do that, it runs the risk of actually continuing to cook, and we don't want things to turn into shredded meat. We want to be able to slice this brisket up really nicely. So it's going to go down for a good long rest, and we're going to talk about that in part 3, so make sure you join me for that. The rest is every bit as crucial as the cook itself, in my opinion. Absolutely has to be done. See you there.